unmitigated disaster for Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever as they play versus the Chicago Sky. Did you like that? Did you like that? Did you like the Clark show, baby? Did you like the Clark show that she put on in Chicago? Any and everybody can get it. Was that white privilege? Well, wait a minute, Djonai Carrington. Was that white privilege? 37 points. Was that white privilege? 10 assists, 37.10 assists, double-double. Was that a white privilege double-double? Was that 8 3-pointers? Right in your eye.
The WNBA thought the drama would begin when the ball went up. But what Djonai Carrington reportedly said to Caitlin Clark before the game may have changed everything. No cameras caught the full exchange, yet whispers about those few tense moments quickly started spreading, leaving fans wondering what was really said and why Clark's reaction raised even more questions. Was it harmless trash talk, a warning, or something far more personal? And what happened next?
Dirtbag Djonai clout chaser Carrington. Careful what you wish for, Djonai. Be careful what you wish for. You're the one that circled 8/23 on the calendar. You're the one who tweeted out 8/23 as if it was some date we all should pay attention to. And people paid attention and saw you. Ooh, you had a bad game. Oh, but 8/23. Fair. Caitlin Clark makes 8 3-pointers.
The WNBA has seen plenty of rivalries, plenty of trash talk, and enough social media drama to keep an entire army of sports bloggers permanently employed. But the tension surrounding Djonai Carrington and Caitlin Clark took on a completely different meaning when fans began connecting the dots behind what happened before their latest showdown.
Tension. Nobody more than Miss Djonai Carrington herself. Djonai! Oh dear Lord. She's got her own brick center. She went out and posted this after she got chucked in the last game, the date, like it was going to be something. She's got her own brick center montage. 7 ways. Just even look at the shit that she was doing here. Like, what the fuck is that? But like, she shot the ball 11 times. And she was just out here chucking up mad stuff.
According to the stories circulating around this matchup, Carrington had already made her feelings about the next meeting crystal clear before the ball was ever tipped. There is one important detail that makes this even more interesting, however. The available footage and material surrounding the game do not independently document a direct pre-game conversation in which Carrington delivered some dramatic verbal threat to Clark.
The girl was pulling up from the parking lot. Was that a part of white privilege, Djonai Carrington? You put 8/23 on X like that was going to be some big day for you. It was a day for you to get embarrassed by the GOAT, Caitlin Clark again. Caitlin and Kelsey combined for 67 points. Man, are the Indiana Fever better without the hub? Aaliyah Boston? We got Natasha. Hated this in the worst way. Man, oh man, the last 2 games, look, I haven't been able to get no sleep. I haven't had an appetite. Now, I'm feeling much better about myself. I'm feeling much better about my day. Caitlin Clark put on an absolute display versus the Chicago Sky in a huge win for the Indiana Fever. Take a look at this. The girl continues to just do the impossible.
Evidence does show as a very public message that fans interpreted as Carrington sending a warning about the date of their next meeting. And that message was incredibly simple. It consisted of just 2 numbers, 8 and 23. There was no lengthy caption explaining what they meant, no dramatic statement promising revenge, and certainly no motivational speech that sounded as though it had been written for the final scene of a Netflix sports documentary.
So the game that Djonai Carrington had circled on her calendar and wanted the world to see happened tonight. And how did it turn out? Caitlin Clark had 37 points, 10 assists, 8 threes, and we got this lovely reaction. But I want to point out something that happened in the game. Some of the Chicago Sky, including Djonai Carrington, to me, were looking for a fight this game. And Caitlin, instead of talking about it in the media, just did it with her basketball skills. And
there was simply a date, posted without explanation, leaving everyone else to figure out why Djonai Carrington wanted people to remember August 23. Once fans realized that August 23 was the date of the next matchup between the Chicago Sky and the Indiana Fever, the post immediately attracted attention. What initially looked like two random numbers suddenly appeared to carry a message, and many people interpreted it as Carrington publicly marking the date when she would get another opportunity to face Caitlin Clark and the Fever. That was when the story started becoming far more interesting, because if Carrington intended those numbers to serve as a warning or a challenge, Caitlin Clark would eventually respond in the one language that matters most once the lights are on, the crowd is roaring, and the basketball has been tossed into the air. She responded with her game. By the end of the night, the numbers connected to that date had become almost unbelievably symbolic. Clark made 8 three-pointers while the Indiana Fever defeated the Chicago Sky by 23 points. It was the kind of coincidence that would probably be rejected if someone tried to put it into a fictional sports movie, because the writers would be accused of making the symbolism far too obvious. However, before getting to the remarkable ending of August 23, it is important to understand why that particular date had become such a major talking point, and why the tension surrounding DJ Carrington and Caitlin Clark had already been building long before the two teams met again.
Oh, like, why is always got to be something with the same repeated offenders, man? Like, it's always like the less talented out of the group, right? The less talented ones always focus on everything but basketball. The ones that's talented, you know what they focus on? Putting the ball in the hoop. The ones that's less focused, that's less talented, you know what they focus on? They focus on being violent, extra physical.
The history between the two players did not begin with one social media post or one heated game. Their connection to this particular storyline stretched back to Clark's rookie season, when a controversial moment during a playoff game against the Connecticut Suns and became one of the most widely discussed incidents of her first year in the WNBA. During that game, Carrington made contact with Clark near the eye while contesting a pass, leaving Clark visibly hurt and eventually playing with a noticeable black eye. Carrington later explained that she had been attempting to make a play on the basketball and had not intended to hit Clark. The material surrounding the incident also described the play as a fast basketball sequence rather than presenting clear evidence that Carrington had deliberately tried to injure her. Nevertheless, the incident became enormous online, and once the internet decides that two athletes are involved in a rivalry, it becomes almost impossible to convince anyone that the next meeting will simply be another ordinary game. From that moment forward, every matchup between the two players seemed to carry additional meaning. A hard screen could become a controversy, an ordinary whistle could lead to accusations of favoritism, and a brief stare could be analyzed with the seriousness usually reserved for international diplomatic negotiations. That is simply part of the reality surrounding Caitlin Clark, whose presence has turned many ordinary basketball moments into massive discussions across social media.
I think we all just seen what happened when Caitlin Clark scored 30-plus points. We actually win the basketball game. You see what happens when you give Caitlin Clark the ball? We win the basketball game. So you let me know if they trying to sabotage Caitlin. But at this point, it don't even matter because Caitlin Clark, I believe, has passed up Alyssa Thomas with assists. Oh, yes. Another one off the board.
At some point, somebody probably needs to create an FBI division dedicated entirely to reviewing WNBA body language, because the internet has already been doing the job for free. The situation between Carrington and the Fever became even more intense during the 2026 season when she was involved in another controversial incident against Indiana. Afterward, Carrington made a social media post containing the phrase "white privilege" while tagging the Indiana Fever, which immediately created another major debate surrounding the incident. She later clarified that she was not specifically claiming that the flagrant foul call itself was directly the result of racial bias. But by that point, the conversation had already expanded far beyond the original play. The controversy had become larger, louder, and far more complicated than a single foul. Then came the post that brought everything back to one particular date. As soon as fans connected those numbers to the next meeting between the Chicago Sky and Indiana Fever, August 23 became a date that many people immediately began watching. The interpretation among a large number of fans was that Carrington was publicly marking the upcoming matchup and signaling that she would have another opportunity to face Clark and the Fever. Whether the post was intended as a warning, a form of motivation, a personal reminder, or simply a message that fans interpreted in their own way, it undeniably created anticipation around the game.
Caitlin Clark makes 8 3-pointers. The Indiana Fever win by 23 points. Great foresight on your end, Djonai Carrington. Nobody asked you to clothesline Sophie Cunningham, go into the locker room and tweet, "White privilege." Nobody forced you to do it, but you did it. And you put the spotlight on you. So coming into this game, we were all asking, what's Djonai Carrington going to do 8-23? And she stunk up the joint. Djonai Clout Chaser Carrington. It wouldn't be a game without her clout chasing, without her back up to her old dirty tricks, trying to get a...
Suddenly, this was not simply another matchup between Chicago and Indiana. That is also a dangerous amount of attention to place on one particular game when the player standing on the other side happens to be Caitlin Clark. Clark has developed a fairly consistent way of dealing with noise throughout her basketball career. She generally does not need a lengthy social media campaign to announce that she is ready. And she does not need to hold a press conference promising that something dramatic is about to happen. More often than not, she simply arrives, finds the basketball, and starts shooting from distances where most people would normally consider checking whether the arena has accidentally extended the three-point line. That is why the anticipation surrounding August 23 continued to grow. When the game finally arrived, fans were prepared for a physical and emotional matchup. Chicago competed early, while Carrington defended Clark with the aggressive style that has become a major part of her identity as a player. Carrington is known for bringing defensive pressure and intensity, and facing Clark requires exactly that kind of approach, because giving her even a small amount of space can quickly become an expensive mistake. Then came one of the most revealing sequences of the night. During the second quarter, Carrington was called for a foul while defending Clark and reacted strongly to the whistle. The material surrounding the game describes Carrington arguing with the official and accusing Clark of flopping during the sequence.
Trying to get a reaction. You look childish and corny. Then going down, shoulder bumping. Like, that's weird, bro. That is weird. And we got to start calling things for what they is. They're weird. People that do this is weird. Weirdos. That's just the truth. And this is what BLACK privilege looks like. You able to mock somebody and get away with it, and then come down and bump somebody intentionally and get away with it. Can you imagine if Caitlin would have did the same thing to somebody? Oh, y'all would have been having a fit.
That was already enough to increase the tension. But basketball has a strange sense of timing, and roughly half a minute later, the game produced a moment that could not have been scripted much better. Clark brought the ball up the court, created enough space to operate, stepped back from deep range, and drilled a three-pointer. It was not a cautious shot from the corner, and it was not a simple layup designed to keep the peace. It was the kind of confident three-pointer that has become one of Clark's trademarks, launched from the kind of distance that makes defenders question whether they should guard her or simply contact air traffic control. The timing could not have been more dramatic. Carrington had just been involved in an argument surrounding the previous possession, and Clark answered the situation by burying a deep shot. The emotional temperature of the game continued to rise after that. Footage discussed in the source material shows Carrington making contact with Clark as both players moved back up the floor, while Clark appeared to wave off the interaction and continue playing. The moment quickly became another talking point because it appeared to demonstrate how differently the two players were handling the tension surrounding the game. Clark did not appear interested in turning the moment into a prolonged confrontation. Instead, she continued moving and kept her attention on the game. That gesture became significant because sometimes the most effective response is not a long argument or a dramatic reaction. Sometimes it is simply refusing to give the other person the reaction they appear to be looking for and continuing to do what brought you success in the first place.
Game we had today. Djonai Carrington completely humbled by Caitlin Clark. And then she's going to try to shoulder shrug Caitlin. Caitlin like, girl, get out of here, bruh. I just bust you. Pick your face up off the floor. Caitlin Clark hit a logo 3 in her face. Then she was trying to mock Caitlin Clark. Got the tech. She got a technical, but nothing beats what Natasha Cloud did.
As the game continued, the difference in approach became increasingly noticeable. Carrington had helped create anticipation around August 23, whether intentionally as a warning or simply by publicly marking the date for fans. Clark, meanwhile, appeared determined to answer the entire atmosphere surrounding the matchup through her performance. And by the end of the night, the statistics told an extraordinary story. Clark finished the game with 37 points and 10 assists. She made 8 three-pointers. The Indiana Fever defeated the Chicago Sky by a final score of 113 to 90. That meant Indiana had won by exactly 23 points. Suddenly, the date that had been posted before the matchup became the source of an almost unbelievable coincidence. At that point, social media reacted exactly as everyone would expect. It completely lost its mind. Fans immediately connected Clark's 8 three-pointers and Indiana's 23-point victory to Carrington's earlier 8-23 post. Some people viewed it as a remarkable example of basketball karma, while others argued that fans were reading far too much into a coincidence and that the original post was simply a date. Both interpretations are understandable, and that is actually what makes the story more interesting. However, one important distinction should be made about the central claims surrounding this story. The documented material does not establish that Carrington delivered a specific, direct verbal statement to Caitlin Clark before the game.
We got Djonai Carrington once again. I mean, like, she just can't get out of her own way at this point, huh? From raking people across the head, playing victim, staying white privilege, wearing a blonde wig at that, right? Going on your phone, breaking league policy, facing no punishment, showing black privilege in this league, going at the white girl once again on August 23rd. Although it was your funeral last night, Caitlin Clark led your funeral. I enjoyed watching your funeral last night. It was pretty fun. But Djonai Carrington, once again, more stuff just keeps coming out. She's bumping Caitlin Clark in the chest, staring Caitlin Clark down in the game, approaching her.
What the available material clearly shows is the public post marking August 23 and the intense atmosphere that developed around the matchup. Fans interpreted that post as a message connected to the upcoming meeting, and the game itself eventually gave those numbers an entirely unexpected meaning. Once the basketball game began, Clark delivered one of the strongest possible responses without needing to say very much at all. Instead, she produced 37 points and 10 assists while making 8 three-pointers and helping Indiana secure a 113-90 victory. That is what made the entire sequence so fascinating. Carrington's earlier post had created expectations around August 23, and fans believed the date might represent an opportunity for her and the Sky to make a statement against Clark and the Fever. Instead, the night became associated with one of Clark's most explosive performances and a victory margin that perfectly matched the numbers Carrington had posted. There is also a larger lesson hidden inside the entire situation. When an athlete publicly marks a particular date and fans begin treating that game as a major event, the pressure does not exist only for the opponent. It also exists for the player who helped create the anticipation. An ordinary regular season game suddenly becomes something much larger. That pressure can motivate an athlete, but it can also become a burden when the game does not unfold as expected. Clark, meanwhile, has spent much of her professional career dealing with intense defensive pressure, criticism, physical play, and the kind of constant attention that can transform a routine basketball game into a national discussion.
My goodness, Djonai Carrington bookmarking this day just to get embarrassed by Caitlin Clark. The big bad wolf coming through, blowing houses down until she tried to blow down the Caitlin Clark brick house that was built by Djonai. This lady was 3 for 11. 3 for 11, 0 for 3 from the 3. A terrible performance. My goodness. Tried to come out and take the show, right? Tried to create her moment. And guess what, Djonai? Now your name is Djonai Who Carrington. Who cares?
By this stage of her career, she understands that almost every reaction can become a headline. That may explain why one of the smartest things she appeared to do on August 23 was to keep her focus on the game itself. And then, as though the basketball gods had decided the entire story needed one final joke, the game ended with Clark making 8 three-pointers and Indiana winning by 23 points. The symbolism was almost too perfect. Whether Carrington's original post was intended as a warning to Clark, a personal reminder, a motivational message, or simply a date that fans interpreted in their own way, The result of the game gave those numbers an entirely different meaning. However, after Clark scored 37 points and helped the Fever walk away with a dominant victory, it may not have been remembered for the reason many fans initially expected. That is the unpredictable beauty of sports. An athlete can prepare a statement, build anticipation, post a message, and convince the entire internet that the next meeting is going to be a defining moment. However, once the game begins, all of those predictions eventually have to face the reality of live competition. The basketball goes up, the players take the court, and eventually, the scoreboard delivers the final answer. On August 23, the final numbers were impossible to ignore. Caitlin Clark had made 8 three-pointers. The Indiana Fever had won by 23 points. The date that had created so much anticipation before the game had somehow become part of the final punchline afterward. And perhaps that is the most remarkable part of the entire story, because sometimes the biggest message before a game is not the one that gets spoken out loud. Sometimes the real answer arrives later, when the game is over, the crowd is heading home, and the scoreboard is left standing with the final word.